Okay, obligatory few seconds to see finally the confirmation that I'm live and waiting for someone to say that in the chat. Hey Virginie, and unbelievably quickly YouTube delivered the comment to me. Usually it takes like a minute, there's a minute long delay or something before I can see your messages. So yeah, I know I'm live. Hey everyone. And before I start, here's a question, yeah, quiz question for you from, I'm attending pub quizzes. My wife and I and our friends who pretty much help us volunteering, we all like a pub quiz that one team is running in our city. Well, obviously not this month, but well, just the fun fact: the pub quiz. The last time that pub quiz they ran the pub quiz was on the 23rd of February. So we carelessly went to have some beers and answer some quiz questions. Just on the evening before the war started. So I remember the first hour I was all alone because my wife and her and our other team members, they were still busy with their work. So I was answering the questions all on my own for the first hour, and then they joined me. And well, we don't win. We never win actually this thing, but we answer lots of questions. There are a few teams who always take the first place, so it's usually the same team taking the first place over and over, but they study like hell. They like prepare each week. They have these sessions when they prepare. They split the responsibilities, who studies which area. And the fun thing about that particular pub quiz, which is called show, which is like what show, roughly translates to what show, is that the questions, you don't have to know everything. Like, it's not like 10 know everything about lakes in the world. The questions you usually can get logically to the answer. So yeah, that happened on the evening before. And hey Max, by the way, that happened on the evening before the war started. So we went to bed, and in the morning we read the news. So one of the questions there was, and it's a visual question. So there's a round where there's some pictures, some pieces of the pictures are hidden, and you have to figure out either what's hidden or what's being described in the picture, or what's the meaning of the picture, and so on. So the question was like this. So during I think the Second World War, there was, in one of the barracks for British troops, there was, so in their barracks, in one of the corners, there was this text: if you talk too much, this person will die. If you talk too much, this person will die. And next to this text was something. So the question was, what was that? What was that something? What was put next to the text? If you talk too much, this person will die. You have 1 minute to answer that question. And and as that minute goes on, let me, first tell you that. By the way, Virginie, did I already mention that? Because from your message, feels like I've already asked that one, but maybe I asked that one because it's a fun question, and it well describes the whole quiz. So most of the questions in the quiz are like this. You just have to think a little bit out of the box and a little bit logically. You don't have to know everything. Yes. So, but that particular question came to my mind today because it's just so it's just so relevant these days. So the answer to this question, so there was something put in the corner, there was a caption on it: if you talk too much, this person will die. And the answer to that is, of course, somebody was telling it was a photo of Marilyn Monroe or Margaret Thatcher or I don't know, any other, or a wife of a given soldier in the barracks or whatnot. But oh yeah, hey Brand, but the answer is a mirror. So if you talk too much, you will die. And telling that, why I remember this question is because even though I want to tell you all about our operation, show you some photos, I cannot really do much. Hopefully in our region, it's relatively safe. There are no people, I forgot the word, but people who create diversions. Because in the eastern parts of Ukraine, the aggressors, the Russian troops, they capture activists, they capture city mayors who are not loyal to the Russian side, and they who are loyal to Ukrainian side. They capture even volunteers, and that said, it is a good idea to keep low profile. Our government issued a warning that it is actually criminal offense now to post anything about the movements of our troops, the movements of our goods, any warehouses, the locations of warehouses, of strategic warehouses or whatnot. Not that we know much of it, but even our humanitarian aid warehouse, we should keep it low profile, because, well, each box counts, each box of goods, of food for the civil citizens. They are bombing civil citizens as well, despite what they're claiming. They are actively targeting civil citizens as well. So even our humanitarian aid warehouses and whatnot are not, and the echelons we are sending with goods to those cities in need, they are not safe. So the information about that cannot be disclosed. And it's not just the criminal offense. We just generally need to keep low profile. Even though we had to start our Instagram page, we are posting whatever we can in that Instagram page, something that will not reveal where we are, what we are doing that much. But we finally, after a month of operation, we finally launched an Instagram page, and oh yeah, they started posting something in it. So Uzhhorod volunteers, we now have a logo, and fun story about that logo. We have 8,000 volunteers. We are not yet translating the content of our pages, but yeah, you can figure out that we have lots of people. We have some foreign companies, but we have some partners, the Veterans Army in the UK, super great guys who visited Ukraine. They were shocked that we actually, they thought of us, and I probably never. So in the community there was this sentiment that Ukraine is not like some godforsaken country. Then somebody stood up and told someone to edit that comment. It's not like I didn't mind it at all. I mean, I know it quite well when that there is this common misconception, I don't know, maybe in a way, it is true that perhaps we are, I wouldn't say the poorest, but the most economically challenged country in Europe. And that is pretty true, because we have a lot of USSR legacy. For the best part of our independent history, we still had a lot of influence from Russia and from whatever left from the USSR, including the methods of government, the methods of control, of doing things, a lot of corruption as well. So, for instance, I wouldn't name those people, but many mayors are corrupt and even our city could have been much better if funds were targeted wherever they should have been targeted. Instead, we had bad roads, we have atrocious architecture, and the best parts of our city are the ones that were still that were built by Czechoslovaks between the two world wars, because we used to be part of Czechoslovakia back then. So we have that legacy is probably the best things we have. Well, I mean, in infrastructure and in architecture, not what. So in 20 years, we got only some good shifts recently when we actually started doing democratic elections that were not tampered or bribed or whatever. So Zelensky, you probably heard of Zelensky, who's our president now. The whole world watches him transcending from a comedian and an actor to a voice of Ukrainian people who actually I voted for him, and I sort of knew that he would be a much better voice than his opponent back then, and I'm really happy that he's in his place now. So, I lost the thought that I had. Yeah, so when we chose him, and we chose him totally democratically, so it was untampered elections ever since the revolution in 2014. We actually had democratic elections, unlike some of our neighbors, where the results are well known before even the ballots are open. So yeah, and now things were getting better. So in the last few years, things were getting better. We still have some problems in our cities, on the places. We still have, like, the local government is not yet cleansed, refreshed, but we were getting there, and I hope we'll get there. And if we don't get there, it's gonna be just a crime against everything. If we lose this chance to refresh our country after the war, even those who used to be, well, I wouldn't say criminals, but who did shady stuff, everyone's now fighting on one side, against Russia. Because I'm not afraid to say it out loud. Some people tend to smoothen the corners. No, Russia attacked us. I made a mass standout to all people who were my subscribers on the Coda Tricks newsletter, and I specifically told Russians to go fuck themselves. I'm not going to help them anymore. I'm not going to. I didn't have any sort of Russophobia for the best of the last, ever since. I grew up on Russian books. That's why I know Russian language. Back then we didn't have too much Ukrainian literature, Ukrainian child books. So I both learned Russian and Ukrainian and can speak fluently both languages. And I never had really any hatred towards them. I stayed in their chat. Whenever a person talked to me in Russian, I switched to Russian to reply to them. Now I will not do that just in spite, because no. Let's call it what it is. So I don't want to have any ties with them anymore. I don't want to help any single person out there. They are lost to me. They have the nerve to say we are not a country, or we are not a nation, we are some artificial construct made by Lenin or whoever. No, I would say they are not a nation anymore. They were not a nation after they killed their Tsar in 1914. So whatever they are so proud of, the language, the literature, the art, it's all it was all done back in Tsar Russia, back in the 19th century and so on, 18th, 19th century. They didn't produce anything. They stole whatever was created outside of USSR. They claimed it theirs. Whatever products they have, it's stolen, or it's heavily influenced, let's call it that. So their culture, their modern culture is pretty much trash. So they have the nerve to say we are not a nation. Well, guess what? See what's happening. Anyway, I got carried away again. I'm trying to not get too aggressive on that point, but you can guess the point I have. And I have all the right to be frustrated because for the month has passed, right? Or more than a month has passed, and it went like poof. Well, I'll just hide this for a second. It went like poof. I didn't have a chance to do any work. I didn't have a chance to do any courses, work. Our life, well, the first 2 days, well, everything started on the first day. Obviously, everyone was shocked. Nobody knew what to do, where to go, what to expect. We were packing our emergency backpacks, trying to get some food. Well, I was standing in the queue for gas. Everyone was pretty much in queuing either for gas or for food. Everyone was panicking. Everything went a little bit more silent in our region. Everything calmed down in our region in like a day or two. We started volunteering, and yeah, back to the things we were doing. So that last stream, I'm not using that software again. I'm not, we don't have very stable internet here. We are still pirating it over from the house nearby. So I bought a few Wi-Fi routers and I set up like a bridge. We have a router on the balcony of the opposite house, and then we have a router in our house, and that one distributes Wi-Fi from that other flat, and that router is connected to that other hotspot, and this is like how we organized our internet in our house. Yeah, so we've been at first we were organizing volunteers. So the first thing we did, we decided, and I don't know, I didn't talk really that much last time. Is it at all interesting what I'm talking about? Because I'm thinking of what to show you and how to tell you best. So first, I guess you are sort of curious what's happening with me, with us. Well, I'm super proud of my wife and her team. They are doing a lot of things, doing a lot of work. They are importing goods. And speaking of what, we really need more channels of getting humanitarian aid in here, because we have a system of actually importing that from Slovakia and sometimes Hungary and Romania, but we mostly import from Slovakia because if you look at the map, right, our city is bordering, so this is our city, and hopefully it does not show my location yet. We are bordering, well, on Slovakia, right? So here's there's the checkpoint. Everyone knows that we have a checkpoint there. In the first days, there used to be massive queues of people. All the cars were all over from here and all over from here, queuing up for the checkpoint, and people standing like 500, 1,000, 2,000 people queuing up here on the checkpoint. We had, well, not us, but volunteers organized a few points with food and hot coffee and tea and everything. So there were like 5 or 6 tents with food and all. And now that part of, and we were sending volunteers there so they asked us to send some people from our chat to stay on duty for a few shifts. Like they organize themselves in 3 or 4 shifts daily, so making sandwiches, serving food, going out to the queue with trays, and so all those things, picking up trash and so on. So we sent people that way on the border. Now the queues are pretty much over because whoever wanted to leave Ukraine left. Most of the people left when they had a chance still. Now the troops are not progressing. Russian troops are not progressing anymore into the country, so no new cities are being occupied. Pretty much the situation calmed down, so yeah. And yeah, this is Vyšné Německé, so a Slovakian village near the border, and this is, well, the closest to us because, well, Hungary is here, right? And Poland, they mostly bring things from Poland into Lviv, so Lviv is a big city. They have their own operations in there, I think. And well, and Romania is a little bit distant. I mean, not super distant. This here is like maybe 100 something kilometers, but we only had a few shipments from Romania, so mostly Slovakia, right? Košice, Michalovce, Sobrance, Vyšné Německé is where we are getting, where we have our partners. They have some warehouses in there. They bring in the foods, the goods there. We have our trucks and eight-wheelers and trucks and semi-trucks and whatnot, and sometimes even like vans. We send them to Vyšné Německé, we do the paperwork, we get the goods here in Uzhhorod. We have our own warehouses. Here's one of them. It's for the eight-wheelers. We have this hangar. The part on the right side is not ours. That's why there's a little bit of a mess. They just pile, they just throw everything. They unload the truck. They just put it on a big pile. On the left side, well, you can say it's ours. My wife is just like me. We are super perfectionists. So what they did, they made these shelves and boxes out of pallets, and yeah, we did some of that. So we have everything organized nicely. Well, this was just unloaded. The girls go in there, they sort through all the things, repack it, because the humanitarian aid gets sent in, well, assorted things. So there is a box and there can be all sorts of things in that box. And we sort them, girls sort them. I say we, when I say we, I mean them, because I'm mostly doing IT things. And I rarely go and help with this. We have like a horde of people to do this, and I try to apply myself only where I can apply myself at. I cannot even tell you all about that, because some of that is somewhat illegal, whatever I do. But whatever I do, I hope that it saves lives, even if it's a little bit illegal. And I'm talking about some tampering with documents sometimes, some photoshopping, because some organization won't just well, okay. I'm not trying. Yeah, I cannot witness against myself, can I? Right? But yeah, sometimes I do some things that help us get more help wherever it's needed from people who wouldn't just give it out without documents created in a very specific way. Why nobody has got time for that. Nobody has got time to form the documents exactly how those organizations want them. So I have to do some photoshopping so that those accept those documents, just to give out goods, basically, meds and so on. Regular off-the-shelf meds, I mean painkillers, mild painkillers and whatnot. Not the things that you have to get a prescription for. Yeah, we actually have, I think we've got more to post, because I've been, so this thing, the Instagram thing, we've got a person to make this, to make the graphics for the Instagram in the end. My friend, so the Instagram is a fun part, actually. Let me see if I at first, so a month into our operation, so we actually did what we had to do, right? And everyone was busy with, so girls were organizing shipments and everything, and yes, we do what we have to do, exactly. So they were busy with that, and nobody had really time to make any photos, because we have a few organizations in here who is so much try to show off how they are helping. They are, each time they make a box of goods or they send it somewhere, they make a selfie with it, you know. And I can sort of understand why they are doing that. They need, well, they are an officially registered NGO, and we are not. And actually, we don't have time to register an NGO. You know, there's the bureaucratic procedure to go and apply, create the funds, register the accounts, write down the statute, or how do you call that? So all those bloody things. We need to refuel cars like right now. We need to get the help in here ASAP and send it out ASAP. So we are currently operating under the name of the other fund. They gave us the permission to operate under the names of the other registered funds, but when we are talking about fundraising, we actually would like to raise the funds ourselves. We have our own credentials. Andriana registered a PayPal. Andriana registered a few bank accounts to get money into. I did the thing with the pre-selling my course, and I can do that legally totally. I can, if anyone needs, they can write an invoice for that. I will totally tax that as my professional services income. So I will tax that. It's not much actually. The taxes on individual entrepreneurs here are 5%. They are actually allowing to only pay 2% in the Marshall time, in the Marshall state. I had a chance till today, I think, or till tomorrow. I still have a chance to switch from my 5% tax to the 2% tax, but I actually don't want to do that because like 5%, I always said it's a tip I give to the country for being able to do business here. It's nowhere near 40 or 30% or 45 or whatever you have in the Europe or wherever. So for small businesses, for individual entrepreneurs especially, the tax is like non-existent almost. So they were thinking of raising it to 10% for IT people. There was a lot of pullback, and people were like arguing that. I think this shifts with the war, and after the war, I think everyone will just come together and try their best to rebuild our country, you know, and contribute in whichever way they can. I really hope for that. So yeah, 5% is not that much, and this is how I can do fundraising, right? I am very thankful to everyone who subscribed to my Patreon for a year. Well, Patreon waived their platform fees, so I got all of that into my account. I will of course tax it, but yeah, this I got. I think I raised somewhere in the vicinity of 7 grand, 6 or 7 grand from these payments that I made the calling for. It's plenty to sustain ourselves. So we can pay totally for our gas, for our utility bills, for our food, everything. It's not really much to pay for the transport, for transporting the humanitarian aid in and out in from Europe. So talking about just us, it's okay, and we don't know how long this war will last. But speaking of 8-wheelers, so say this, 1 liter of fuel costs approximately €1.5 in here, and I don't know if you have to pay it in here, or if you can refuel cars here, or you have to refuel them in Europe, and the cost is probably higher in Europe. So let's say €1.5 per liter, and an 8-wheeler can take up to, I think, 20 or 25 liters per a loaded 40 liters. I don't know even, because it's not me who's doing the calculations, who's doing all that. It's the girls. Long story short, I think just one 8-wheeler, one full 8-wheeler going out to Košice and back would cost somewhere in the vicinity of 100 something or 200 something euros, which we sometimes pay out of our pockets, including your contributions, and sometimes we also have some sponsors who pay for the fuel. So we have one organization whom we do not name really, but they have ties to the Federation of MMA, the multi martial arts, or I don't know what MMA stands for, but I think something like that. So mixed martial arts, I guess. So they are helping us, and yeah, and sometimes we pay for the fuel out of our own pocket, and we don't know how much we will last. So what I'm saying is that we need some more substantial sponsors if this goes on for longer, and even if the war stops, we'll still have to get food and goods into the cities that are pretty much ruined. So I think we will still have a lot of expenses, trailing expenses, into the peaceful times and the times of rebuilding the aftermath, dealing with the aftermath. So yeah, what I'm trying to say is, if anyone's watching me who knows some organizations who would like to contribute to Ukraine, basically, and who'd like to help us particularly, and I hope you can trust me and my word, and you can trust when I say that we are not, even though we are not registered as a, so back to my thought, we are not registered as a non-commercial, non-governmental, non-whatever, non-profit organization, because we just didn't bother to register, and nobody really bothered to register in this time. And that said, we don't have to report for how we spend the funds, and this is one of the reasons I didn't want to do any sort of fundraiser other than what I did personally. But if you have organizations that can trust someone who is not registered officially as a non-governmental organization, they just can trust me as a person and my word that my folks here, my wife and her girls, we are not spending these funds on ourselves. I mean, not other than what I'm declaring, right? The food and the utilities and living all under one roof, and the gas. I mean, we are not buying yachts with it, or taking first class flights anywhere, right? This is almost funny to say, because there are no flights, and we don't have a river. That's not a fun story I could tell you, because we have a regatta. I think at some point I told you all about the Uzhhorod regatta, right? When they make these it's just a funny thing they have in here. So everything goes towards the good cause, and by good cause I mean getting the humanitarian aid and the meds into Ukraine and distributing them wherever they are needed. So if you know any organizations that can trust us and they can help and support more substantially with either bigger sums of money or with big loads of humanitarian aid shipped to our border, please give them my contacts. You know all my contacts, basically. You know my email, you know my everything, or just connect me with them, and I will connect them with the girls, and I'll help translate. We have a person who actually speaks English well, and it is in the center of things, in the epicenter of things. So even with them, I'll connect them with that person. Speaking of that person, I'm gonna suggest that you listen to that podcast, because Helena, that person, she gave an interview. I think the podcast is called Don't Show My Face, and it's on Spotify, but for some reason we cannot listen to that on Spotify. It's not on our Spotify, but you can Google for it. It's somewhere on buzzsprout.com, whatever. So this is the link. I'll copy that into the chat, and it is in the chat. Wedding planners versus the war. It's a light-hearted episode. I think it takes 20 minutes, and if you listen to that at 2.x or something, this is about us. So the girl, my wife, I told you, right, that my wife used to be a wedding planner, and all her squad is a squad of wedding planners. Wedding planners versus the war is a story about people who know logistics, who can organize weddings of hundreds of people, the most luxurious weddings in the region, who used to organize the most luxurious weddings in the region, who know a lot of people, who know how to get any sort of things across the region or from point A to point B, how to do warehousing and everything. That's why we actually have everything so well organized, right? It's that knowledge, it's that experience from working in perhaps the best wedding atelier in the region, the one that used to organize the biggest weddings, the most luxurious ones. And even though my wife left the company not on so good terms, now, the war really showed who's who, and that person who runs that atelier, the boss, the CEO of that wedding agency, actually turned out to be one of the most helpful people for us and in general. So they have their own warehouse, they bring in their own goods whenever we ask them to get us anything, a warehouse or whatever, a truck, some boxes or this or that kind of goods. They gave it like on the first call, like instantaneously, that CEO of that agency. So in a way, my wife and we all are thankful, because they could be a very bossy boss, but in the end they turned to be a human. So another story. Yeah, back to this. So everything started. So the story goes like this. Everything started with us organized. So there was, on the second day of war, I think, the people who had the most initiative in the region, all the ones that used to volunteer previously, they came together and they were trying to solve the problem of, not to solve the problem, but they were trying to help refugees. Well, we are the most western region, and people were either fleeing to Transcarpathia, to Zakarpattia, our region, or, well, a lot of people were fleeing to Lviv, because Lviv is, well, it's an agglomeration, it's much bigger, it's a bigger city, we are like a province, we are a smaller one, and I guess this helps. Even though we had some air raid sirens, we had one yesterday. I used to just go out for a short walk, and an air raid siren caught me in the open near the lake. But we don't even hide that much these days, because I don't think anybody's gonna bomb our region, because there's nothing interesting in here at all. We don't have any like military departments really, and whatever we have is pretty much defunct. We don't have any oil refineries or oil containments really, other than, well, maybe some local gas stations, and they are, well, so there's no, other than that, we are behind the mountains, so it's pretty hard to launch a missile that would go over the mountains, or it will be shut down. You cannot launch it in an efficient way, really. And there is also a big chance that it lands somewhere in Europe, in Slovakia, which we border on, and that starts a much more significant war, right? So Europe will join the war, or NATO will join the war. So yeah, we are relatively safe here. So lots of people were actually coming to Zakarpattia as probably the safest place. And also, I don't think anyone thinks of Zakarpattia as the nationalist state, because in Lviv, for instance, well, they are more nationalist than us, and well, at least I think the whole country is nationalist right now. Everyone is just, even not nationalist, but everyone is very patriotic for their own for our country. But what I mean is that the Carpathia is not particularly interesting region to do any harm to, or to, I don't know, try to teach us a lesson or whatever they are trying to do, these idiots. So I'm joking that the only way they can launch a missile on us is if they just look at the map and think, which of the regions we haven't shelled or bombed yet? Oh, this one looks like we haven't touched yet. But these idiots can do anything, but I hope they won't. So, well, long story short, we are relatively safe here, to the point that the survivor syndrome, that there's like atrocious things happening out there, and we here are in safety. But well, how my wife describes it, it's she thinks of all of this as karmic things, right? So people who um, so people are where they are destined to be, in the places where they are destined to be. So maybe we are destined to be here, we are destined to help, to stay alive, to stay safe, to stay sane, and help the rest. And I made a decision. So I'm not, yeah, again, I haven't been drafted to the army, but if they call me, I'll go. And I think I'm psychologically ready for taking to the arms and going and fighting for our country. I know some people from the community offered me a relocation. Well, first, the borders are closed for people of my age, so we cannot leave. And but the most importantly, I don't want to leave. I need to stay here. I'm helping in whichever way I can. Uh, Even though I'm not helping that actively, I mean, I'm not repacking the packages and whatnot. I'm trying to support the operation, yeah, do whatever is asked of me, sometimes take people by car somewhere, sometimes go help just load the boxes. And usually I'm just sitting at my computer, and I'm currently working on the chatbot, which I'm gonna show to you. I see I have some internet issues. Maybe tell me if I'm breaking off and if I need to repeat myself. Um, I see that the bit rate is dropping off. So please tell me if the transmission is breaking off. Please tell me if the transmission is breaking off. It seems like it's back to normal. Maybe someone tried to load something. We have problems with internet lately because it's so overloaded. First, we've got a lot of people in our region, and secondly, so yeah, and everyone's connected to the internet. Secondly, everyone's scrolling the news all the time, including me, and it's the most counterproductive thing we can do. So I'm trying to get myself busy, but sometimes I just can't help it but scroll the news. What do you mean I'm lagging? So what exactly is lagging? Is my voice lagging? Is the picture lagging? Because yeah, I see that yeah, it drops off sometimes. It used to be more stable. Should I stop and restart the stream? I'm wondering. It won't solve a thing though. Let me check very quickly what's happening with the stream. Well, I had more viewers, and at some point I didn't have. Um, okay, things should get better now. And okay, now it reports that everything is relatively smooth. So please let me know in the chat if the video stabilized, um, if everything's okay again. Because to me it shows that it's okay again. For you, it should have been a little bit of buffering, um, and now it should work better. Okay. So yeah, while I'm waiting for the confirmation in the chat, I'm just gonna keep on talking about all the things in the world. So yeah, what happened in the there's many people came to this region, right? Many people came to this region, and in the first days we knew that this could be a humanitarian catastrophe because our city is pretty small. It was expecting, uh, well, an influx of people twice of the city's size, and we already don't have enough housing. I know that they created a lot of social housing, where people are sleeping on the mats. I think I have some photos even. So at some point we have a local publishment, Varosh. Varosh is a Transcarpathian word for people, for city. So Uzhhorod, they call Uzhhorod Varosh. And uh, in when it used to belong to Hungary, it was called Ungvar. Ung was like a city of the Uzh is a kind of a snake. So our river is called Uzh, and um, it's very curvy, so why it was called a snake. And Ung in Hungarian, and Var is a castle, and that's a city, whatever. And so is Baros city. And I am wondering if there are the photos, but well, photos. I guess the photos are somewhere in their Telegram. Let me see. Varos. Um, well, again, problems with the internet again. Okay. Oh, these are the old ones. Okay, perhaps they are in some reposts somewhere, so I will not find them. I will not find them right now, but well, yeah. There, so the city, so there's the official city council doing something on their own. Well, they are doing something good, and they are doing something not in a not very organized fashion. So so people who used to volunteer a lot and people who have initiative, they joined their forces to help refugees, right? So there was one person responsible for transportation, one person responsible for the meds, one person responsible for the border, for the checkpoints in the border and feeding people there, one person responsible for psychological and medical help, and so on and so forth. And I said I would be responsible for the IT part, which in the end turned out they didn't really need, or I didn't really do much for them. But my wife said she would be responsible for the volunteer workforce, so organizing people, uh, organizing volunteer workforce, basically. So what happened in the first day or 2 days? Everyone was looking how to apply themselves, right? And there were different points where help was needed. So we have one place, maybe I've shown it to you, Gastro Battalion Dolphin. They are uh, they are feeding the refugees. They are preparing 4 tons of food every day or something. So they are craziest people, and I know them because the one who organized that gastro battalion is actually one of my friends, the owner of the cafes where I tend to get where I like to get my daily coffee from. So I know these people for sure. And so what I was saying. Yeah, so they had their own register of volunteers. The checkpoint had their own register of volunteers, the Humanitarian Center, and the one where refugees should come and register and get some initial aid and direction. They had their own list of refugees written of volunteers written on the paper, and then each organization had their own chat. So either a Telegram chat or a Viber chat. So Viber and Telegram are extremely popular messengers here. Nobody really uses WhatsApp here. Not so many people use Facebook Messenger. Lots of people either connect on Instagram in the direct messages. Viber is very popular, especially among older people, adults, senior people. And the younger audience uses Telegram because Telegram is a pretty cool messenger. It has a lot of nice features. Its user experience is very nice. It's free to use. It supports video chats. It supports groups with tens and hundreds of thousands of people. It can be safe. They say that it has some encryption, but I think you have to actively create encrypted chats. You cannot just have encryption by default. That's why some people argue that one shouldn't use Telegram, one should use Signal, but Signal does not have, well, it does not have the reach here, so nobody really uses Signal. In here it's not popular at all. And, well, Telegram is a good enough solution. And yeah, well, fun fact is that it's also debated if Telegram is safe to use at all, because some people say it's a project of Russian KGB or FSB, or how do you call it? Not KGB, but whatever they have now. So it was created by Pavel Durov, Paul, my namesake, Pavel Durov, who used to create Kontakte, known as vk.com, which then was taken away from him. He's a so Pavel Durov, he himself acts like a digital dissident. He had to flee Russia after they were after him, so they took VK.com over from his control and established their own control and established the surveillance on everything that everyone posts on that social network. So Russia kind of seized the VK.com from him. So when he left Russia, he created the messenger Telegram, and it's still debated whether it is true and he's a dissident. He at some point refused to give up encryption, decryption keys, whatever, control of Telegram over to Russian special services. But some people say that Telegram is a project of Russian special services, so that everything that we write to each other on Instagram is actually surveilled and is actually intercepted, so it's not that safe at all. I don't know. I want to believe that, well, it's not. They do have to do some share of disclosing information when it comes down to terrorist activities and whatnot, and human trafficking, child abuses and whatnot. So they do block channels, they do block chats, they do give up some information to authorities, but as far as they know, they don't do that en masse, right? So they only do that on request, and there has to be a very valid reason to ask that of them. But anyway, Telegram is a useful thing, and that's why the chatbot I'm making, I'm doing that in Telegram, and we handle our communication in Telegram. Pretty much everyone handles their communication these days in Telegram. I mean, the younger audience. So yeah, back to to my story. And there were like dozens of these chats. So every organization had their own chat, and what happened was complete chaos. Um, Volunteers would register in each of those chats. A chat would go unmoderated. I mean, someone would post a request for help, like we need 30 people here or there to do this or that. So someone would post a request in a chat. People would reply to that request. They would not bother replying to the message. They would just type in replies in the stream, and sometimes replying to an older message. And so everything was a mess. Nobody knew who replied to what, who already had their team collected. So there was the request for like 30 people. If those 30 people group has already been assembled, nobody knew that. People were and people were sending these requests to all the chats. So there was no way to see if a particular request has been failed or not. Nobody bothered to delete all requests. So there was a mess. And we had even our friends, we had them come to the point, to the place, and see that their help was not needed anymore. So the team already assembled. So everyone was wasting energy on wrong things. So the idea we wanted to streamline that. And what usually IT people do, and what happened after we did our thing. And this is just one educational thing. The problem with IT people, or the people who know some programming or some product creation, they think that when they create one database of everything, or they create a product or a chatbot or whatever, it will solve all the problems, and they will be able to graciously give that product to the masses and take all the credit and just see how people figure it all out themselves. So that's what happened. There is a few bots of giving help, getting help. There is a few bots like that and a few resources like that, where the IT people basically just created a database, just created a form or a chatbot dialogue. Like, I can offer help in this region, I can drive people around. And then someone would post a request or fill out a form like, I want to be driven somewhere, and it just sends you a notification or whatever. So IT people created some piece of logic, some database, and basically told people like, take this and figure it out between yourselves. Well, guess what? This just doesn't work. It doesn't work when it's war and nobody knows what to do. It doesn't work at all. There needs to be, so the people are not yet that much tech savvy, and the user experience and the interface of these bots or these websites, it's not guiding, it's not hand holding people. It just tells you, okay, you fill out this form and you may have a reply at some point, or basically you register as a volunteer, or you register as a person needing volunteer help. But that does not solve the problem, because nobody is going to register as a volunteer for everything. Nobody is going to, that just doesn't work, and you can totally see that these sites, they do nothing. They are good for nothing. Even though people who created them, they took their share of credit, they had their share of press, they tried to get some people into using these platforms, it just doesn't work like that. So whenever you're thinking of a solution, there's this thing that separates a product-oriented person, one who knows what they are doing, from just any person who wants to do whatever, spend energy and not care about whether it's even spent in the right direction. So you have to assess and understand that what you're doing is actually something that people will take and use it, something that's usable, something that makes sense to even spend energy on, because everyone's energy is limited, right? So does it make sense to create a chat bot that, anyone registers to get help, anyone registers to get help, and expect people to figure it out themselves? Well, I knew it, well, I could do that, but I decided not to do that. Someone did that, and I see that I decided not to do that. That was the right choice, because you still need people who will signal from noise, right? You need live people who will separate signal from noise, because another thing what Russians do, they try to flood these bots and to flood these chats and these messages with just useless gibberish or seemingly useful messages, but with some malicious links to websites that will prompt you to donate money to the frauds. But the biggest problem is that, yeah, these chats, they get flooded with these messages and they stop being productive. Whoever registered to receive messages, when they see that there's 500 unread messages in a day, and you cannot make sense of it, who's replying to what and what kind of help is still needed, they just quit the chat, turn off notifications, never read it, so it becomes useless. So it's one way to attack these chats, is just to flood it with useless, well, they attack themselves actually by just having these chats constantly flooded with messages, replies, no organization whatsoever, nobody to filter through signal and noise. They just stop being effective, and that's why when we just started, we wanted to organize volunteers. We saw this big pile of a mess. What we did, well, I suggested doing that. I sort of take credit for that, but at the same time, it's just such a ingeniously simple thing that anyone could do if they put a little thought in it. So instead of creating one chat and yet another chat, after having like hundreds of similar chats, instead of creating yet another chat or trying to solve it with some database of everyone and everything, what we did, we created 2 Telegram groups, basically. One Telegram group, and I think I can show it to you. Well, we created more than 2 groups, because we have coordination group and we have more. Yeah, so I just need something to. So there's something in my hand. Yeah, I just need something to tinker with. So this is something that you train your palm with. I don't know how you call that. Or a deck of cards, 2 decks of cards, or whatever. I also have some resin thing to stop the blood dripping or whatever. Anyway. I created two chats. So one chat is a channel, and a channel is organized this way that only we can post to it. So it's the channel for announcements. We need volunteer work. So if you're a volunteer, you subscribe to this channel. It's a sort of an outgoing front end, outgoing thing. So you, as a volunteer, only subscribe to this channel. There is no mess, as you can see. There is no mixture of, let me maybe, given that quality may drop off, let me tune up the zoom. So, yeah. Everything is very, very organized. These are just looking for people. So we are the open requests for volunteers. Yeah, there's still live people forming these requests, right? So a person like Diana, or who else is Helen, or Andriana. So it's still live people making these messages, right? So there's still a headquarter of people forming these messages. They post a new, so someone, then there is another chat where people are posting their requests too. And this is what I want to make to solve this with. It's pretty flooded again. It was meant to be a chat for maybe 20 people from different places in Uzhhorod that need volunteer help. In the end, it now has 900, almost 900 members in it. So and we also got some attacks by trolls and flood, and I have to go and constantly delete messages time to time. And we've got a lot of irrelevant requests that we redirect. Like there's people who are looking for shelter or housing, people who are looking for transport. We are offering none of that, so I want to have canned responses. So people actually have to respond to these with canned responses. So they just send other groups, links to other groups, to people who are looking for transportations, for car sharing or whatever, ride sharing. So I want to sunset this group and just direct people to use the chatbot instead, and give either the canned responses or process these messages in a more automated way. So, but yeah, there's the group that anyone can write to, and this is an incoming. Basically, we take requests through this group, and then people process the request, call the person, ask about the details if any further details are required. And then the person posts to the Uzhhorod volunteers channel that has, as you can see, 8,000 and something subscribers at this point. Not many people, I mean, many of these people don't actively monitor this group anymore, because we've got some people who came in here from other regions, then they left for Europe, or just got burned out, tired, or actually the country tries to restart itself. So many people now got back to work, especially in the regions that are not affected. So we've got less people willing to help, jumping to help. But in the heyday of this chat, we used to close, so you can see that these are the open ones, and you can find all the open ones by clicking on the hashtag. It will find you that there are actually many open ones now. But in the heyday, we used to close each request in like 2 or 3 minutes. You would just post it and see comments flooding in that, okay, this person, I can do, here's my phone number. So now this is a little bit more slower. So we were like here, let me read this to you. Tomorrow, 12 people make sandwiches in that Gastro Battalion Dolphin, 8:30 a.m. Write your phone number already, and well, it was posted in 4:37 p.m. 4:38. When did we close that? I think we closed it in an hour, right? Well, 12 people, but we've got the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. So within 5 minutes, we already had half of the people, half of the group formed. So it turned out to be super efficient, right? So it's just a Telegram chat. At first, we were sending a form, and people were filling out a form, like I can do this and this and that, I can work at night, in the morning. And actually, it's also a good counter example. So let me maybe find. So actually, I haven't yet updated the website. So there's this website, Uzhhorod.org, Uzhhorodvolunteers.org. It basically redirects to a Coda published front end, and I haven't translated it to English, and I need to redo that because we do so much more than that right now. But actually, it's the first time after Viva Pizza when I used Coda for publishing a website. And actually, I couldn't just set up a redirect. That's another thing to know. You can't just set up a DNS redirect, because while HTTP redirect will work, HTTPS redirect will not. So I had to register. So I had to register a hosting with Firebase, Google Firebase. It's free. It has generous quotas for, and I didn't have to use the hosting itself. So all I had to do, I had to register Uzhhorod.org redirected to Firebase for Firebase to have HTTP and HTTPS working. And then within Firebase hosting, I set up redirect to Coda. And this way, HTTPS redirect worked. So I had the certificate both for Uzhhorod.org issued, and then it redirected to Coda. And well, Coda has HTTPS solved all sorted out. So I had to do it like with a round trip to a hosting to be able to set up redirect. Otherwise, only http.uzhhorod.org worked, but https uzhhorod.org didn't. Which in other fancy words means you could open it from Chrome, you could open it from many browsers, but you couldn't open it on iPhone, for instance, because iPhone assumed HTTPS. Yes, so had to do that. What does it say on the picture? It's a photo taken from, I think, first or the second day. People are weaving masking nets. My wife participated in weaving masking nets before she realized very quickly that she can do much more than just that. Somebody etched a so there's been this story. So what it says basically, Russian warship, go fuck yourself, with a censored, with a censored word in the end. Um, uh, you probably have heard the story of the Russian warship. So in I think the first or the second day of the war, we have this very small island with nobody on there. A some people on it's a Ukrainian border. They have some border. A Russian warship came to that, and it's in the vicinity of Odessa. And yeah, so you know the story basically. So a Russian warship came to that island, and on the radio announced that they I'm the Russian warship. Give up or you will be bombed. We will kill you basically. And well, our border patrol person replied like, Russian warship, go fuck yourself. And after that the transmission ended and everyone thought they died. And just a sec. Yeah, they are looking for the keys to my car. I was not the last one to take my car. The squad are actually using my car whenever they need. When I'm busy, they take my car, go to the. I hate that. I hate that when they break my train of thought. I need like a minute to. Give me a minute. I need a minute to get back to my train of thoughts and also get some water to clean my throat. Okay, so I was telling, yeah, the story of the warship. Everyone thought that those folks were dead. In the end, turned out that some of them were dead, some of them were captured. Then they exchanged the captives, 10 for 10 or something. So they exchanged the captives. And the person behind that phrase, which actually became a super motivational phrase, like it the person actually, well, Zelensky awarded him a Hero of Ukraine. I think that he thought that he died. In the end, well, turned out that he's alive, and everyone's debating if it were better than he remained dead. Like a story would be much more dramatic. But no, I think it's awesome that the people actually turned out to be alive, because well, each life is precious, and it's another thing how we are different from Russians. They would totally not mind killing their own people or killing whatever people to make the picture more dramatic for propaganda. And for us, every life is precious. So yes, so the person is actually alive. I think it was on the news yesterday or 2 days ago, and they already met with some officials, so somebody already greeted them. But this just so much spiked up the, well, the do you know that other part of the story that well, back, I'm not very good with history actually. Never liked history because of the teachers, mostly because teachers or just forcing history down our throats, forcing us to remember all the dates, everything that's like not important, not relevant at all. What I think how history should be taught is you have to basically understand what happened, when, what led to what, and just roughly the timeline. You don't have to remember all the dates of every battle. You just have to know, okay, this happened back then this happened, then it led to this, then it led to that, and then you can make sense of it. Uh, so there's this painting. I don't know if it will load. Yeah, about about Ukrainians. Well, yeah, it's a well, they say, yeah, it's a Ukrainian painter Ilya Repin, and yeah, Zaporozhian Cossacks. Cossacks are writing a letter to the Turkish Sultan. So the Turkish Sultan was trying to seize, yeah, or something, or attack the Cossacks, and the Cossacks were writing a letter back, a reply to the Turkish Sultan. And the content of that letter, like, do we have English version? I'm wondering. No, we don't have. But yeah, so the the text was something like this, and basically it's a lot of profanity, not the F-bombs, but you are the devil, the Turkish devil, and the brother of uh, godforsaken uh, godforsaken Lucifer, blah blah blah, so like that. And well, basically kiss us in our asses, basically, and in a way, like, so a very wordy version of like the same thing. So this happened, when did this happen? 1683, around, yeah, 1683, the Battle of Vienna or something. And basically it's the same thing over again, just in far fewer words. So just go fuck yourself, Russian worship, go fuck yourself. So this spiked the patriotism and the motivation to fight so much. It was so needed in the first few days. I think half of the nation teared up at that moment. So yeah, this is the picture. But back to our story. So I created, yeah, the first sort of website that basically just says, okay, we are Uzhhorod volunteers. Why? What we are doing? We are making the single database of volunteers. The volunteers, they are filling out the form. Coordinators can ask us to find them volunteers, and we find them, basically. Why we are doing this? Exactly the story that I told you. There's chaos in different chats, and then if you need volunteers, you go to this Telegram group, and if you want to be a volunteer, fill out the form and add yourself to the Telegram channel. And the form looked again like this, so a Coda form. Yeah, subscribe to the channel, name, last name, phone number, your age, your gender, and when you can help, in the morning, in the afternoon, etc. Languages you know, transport you have, a location, only Uzhhorod, only online, or also around the outskirts or the whole region or whatnot, and what you can do. So, and yeah, a field to fill out a little bit more about what exactly you'd like to do. So at first we asked people to fill out this form and add themselves to the channel. And as you figured, I think in the first few days, we already had 2,000 people in the channel and only 200 something people who signed up for the form. And actually, when I thought that at first I asked people to leave their Telegram contact, their nickname or their phone number, and I thought I was able to add them automatically through an API request or through a bot or somehow through a list of contacts. I could add them to the channel. So they would fill out the form, and then I would add them to the channel, or because we didn't have that figured out yet. So in the beginning we had the form, but we didn't know yet how to organize the Telegram channel, whether we would have one Telegram channel or we would make multiple Telegram channels, like one for drivers, one for blue-collar jobs, one for white-collar jobs, one for like anything else, for finding goods and so on and so on. So we didn't know how to do that and how to distribute people. We were just collecting the submissions. And I think so I opened up the form in the evening. In the morning I realized we had something like 80 submissions and no way to add those people to Telegram. I had their numbers, phone numbers, but no way to add them to Telegram by force, because with chats, if you have a chat under 20 or something people, you can add people yourself. They have to be on your contact list, and they have to have this privacy setting turned off that you can add them to chats. They allow adding them to chats. But that's only that only stands as long as you have under 100 people in your group, or 50 or 20, so there's some threshold, right? And once your group grows, you cannot add people to it. They have to add themselves explicitly. So I realized I had no way to automatically add them. So what I did, I just sent everyone an SMS. So I composed a message like, please add yourselves to this Telegram channel. So we created this one Telegram channel. We decided to go with a single Telegram channel for the sake of, okay, let's see how it goes. And if we have a plethora of various requests and it becomes unmanageable in a single channel, we will split it down then and just make an announcement that, okay, please join here and here and here and here for that and that and that. And yeah, but we decided, okay, let's go with a single channel, well, single group and single channel. And I sent an SMS just plainly from my phone to everyone, asking them to also join the Telegram if they haven't yet already. And after that we tried to like make the form secondary and the Telegram channel primary, up until we had like 8,000 people in the Telegram channel and 840 people or something in the form, in the database. At which point I again put this as the step 1, but nobody really cares. And what we thought with this database, so this is actually cross-doc from the database. The database lives in another doc. because of good practices, right? We have the private doc, we have the public doc. The one that's published is the public doc that does not have any data, really, only the summaries. So these are, it's actually something I can show you because, well, it's educational, right? Actually, I didn't have a workspace for that back then. Coda only gave me the workspace later. So the front end is this, and the cross doc is that. So I'm just cross docking the totals by categories, and it basically just has one page. And yes, and this is, well, this is the published doc. So no actual data of people. The data goes into the backend docs. The backend doc, well, it's the backend doc. All the things, you know, the DB volunteers here. So as usual, it goes into the well, where does it go? Does it go directly in the DB volunteers? I guess yes, it goes directly in the DB volunteers. I'm not doing any fancy things with getting the submissions into the temporary table, then into here. I mean, back at the time, I had to do it very quickly and very roughly, right? So that's why I didn't bother creating helper tables back then, because the best practice is to use a separate table to collect form submissions and then have either an automation or some other process to process the submissions and put them into the actual table. And the reason behind that is forms can leak data. At the very least, they leak the row URL, the row IDs, and they leak the number of rows in the table. In the worst, they can leak data, so in the shard, right? So the table is connected to other tables like the lookups, has some formulas and has those privacy settings turned on to load lookup data and to load formulas. So if you have formulas on your form, it will load the rest of it will load some other tables from the doc and basically leak the data from the rest of the doc. That's why it's a good idea to have it a totally, like, a form should be, it's already like Coda is trying to do some isolation of form from the rest of the doc, but the way that it automatically can include some data in the shard calls for true privacy. It calls for also creating a separate table that's not connected to anything for a form. Yes, so this is why it's a good practice, it's the best practice to make a separate table. I didn't do that in here, but really no functions here and really nothing that, I thought it was pretty safe. There's nothing that can leak from this table already. But yeah, everything is, so these are the tables that are aggregated, they get cross-docked, right? And what I actually also wanted to do, I wanted to make a Trello, basically, for our tasks, for the tasks of our HQ, like first, who do we contact, whom do we offer our services, whom do we go and distribute the stickers, or who do we connect, the media and so on. But in the end, turned out that nobody is really using it. Nobody wanted to use it. Everyone, like, another good revelation is that if you haven't taught people to use a certain tool or a certain approach, be it Trello, Coda, or whatever else, before the situation actually started, don't bother trying to teach them or trying to get them onto the tool once the situation is already unwilling, right? Because when everything is hell and everything is chaos, everyone's just better off using what's already familiar with them. And in the case of my wife and her people, Good old sticky notes on pieces of canvas and on a whiteboard. Good old sticky notes beat any sort of Trello, any sort of Coda, any sort of task manager by a long margin, because it's just easier for them to scribble it down in whatever form. Don't bother about data, sanitization data, well, or the way that everything is organized, right? The way that everything is cohesive and sticks to a certain schema. No way to just bother about that. Good old sticky notes and pens. And yeah, if we want to teach people to make use of automation, business automation, we need to teach them in peaceful times. And that's one thing I wanted to say but didn't say yet. That's one thing that I want to do. I know I have an obligation to make Coda courses, to make fundamental Coda courses and the advanced Coda courses, but what else I also want to do is to build maybe one course, maybe more courses in Ukrainian language for Ukrainians about basically the modern computer literacy, because what people usually think when they hear computer literacy, how to create folders, how to make Word docs, make some basic Google Sheets in whatever form and calculate a sum of things. It's no longer relevant because pretty much everyone knows how to do that, and still nobody uses Sheets in the proper way. So I would like to make a course about how to basically approach computing, how computers can help you nowadays, what kind of tools you can use, and like including the things that the no code, low code things. So how you can use, I don't know, how you can use Notion. We got a lot of websites and resources about how you can help Ukraine, or how to help yourself if you turn out to be in this or that situation. Like most of them are built on Notion and super.site platforms, and I don't hate Notion at all. I mean, I didn't do that. They did it up quickly. It's a good thing that Notion had so much spread even here. They have ambassadors in Ukraine and so on. So they were able to spin those websites up very quickly, faster than I would have thought of doing that. So no hate on that. Actually, it's a cool thing. Generally, it's a good case for no code in general, how you spin up ad hoc solutions that you need like now. So how to use Notion, how to use Airtable, again, even though if those are competing tools, I want to make a course in Coda, maybe even a deeper course in Coda, so that people can learn how to do these things, maybe also consult and do these things for hire. But most importantly, I want to show that it's not just like casual using of computers, and then there's programming, and then there's programmers who learn like Python and C++ and Java and Kotlin and whatnot. That you can actually solve your problems with modern day computers, modern day tools. You can learn how to, well, optimize your work, I don't know, automate something, and it's already a superpower, it's already a skill. So I want to make that sort of a course. Maybe I will then record it in English, whatnot. I'll see if it's well met. Maybe it's gonna be that one $10 course on Udemy or something. But for Ukrainians, it's gonna be free, because yeah, I do want to, yeah, I do want to support our folk. We will have to rebuild our country. I wish people were ready to do it more efficiently than before. So yeah, yeah, that's also somewhat of a priority now. Yeah, back again to the train of thought that I had. So this website, yeah, so the database we collected, as you can see, I didn't even bother making user-specific filters really, because nobody really was using this. Nobody was really using this database of people. Yeah, these are just and this is again another case for don't keep it simple and you ain't gonna need it. These were just, well, the interactive filters, and that's it. So the two-click solution, never used it in my consulting life, never used it in my own docs, as I thought it was too primitive, the interactive filters. All it did was create a control, and the one that nobody can tweak independently of other people. And in the end, I just made it these controls, and we used this database maybe twice or maybe 3 times in its whole existence. So in the end, this turned out to work much better. If we just post a, there was some comment, I think. Yeah, we just, maybe you can only see that on the computer, the statistics. Yeah, it does not show it here. Not on the computer, but on the phone you can have the statistics. Let's only see the posts lately, but if you scroll back, so lots of people actually check the chats later in the night, which is an indication that people are trying to get back to their lives with their works, jobs, and their just regular daily lives. Yeah. So that is the story of the chat. Ingeniously simple idea: make 2 separate channels, and you don't have to be like Einstein for that, and turn 2 separate chats, and it all becomes much better now, because, well, the volunteers, they are not inclined to just quit or turn off the notifications if there's no flood in there. Right. Another thing that I created using Coda is, and I have to briefly hide my face so that you don't see the URL. I don't want to publish the URL because it's a live doc. So yeah, I do not want to, I have to go full screen. So the Humanitarian Aid Center that we have in Uzhhorod, they asked me to build a front end for them, and it's not 100% ready, but they never contacted me about the improvements either, so I just went on. And this uses basically the Viva Pizza approach. This doc uses the Viva Pizza approach. So there's the center where they get the humanitarian aid. It's the one controlled by the local government, and they are doing, well, a passable job about that. They have goods imported into their center, like bread, so there's food, there's like tea and sugar and whatnot, water, hygiene items, child hygiene, and so on. So there's like different sorts of products and different sorts of units, like pieces, kilograms, yeah, pieces, liters of milk, and so on. And they wanted, actually, let me once again hide this thing and show me how it used to look like. Let me find how it used to look like. So yeah, this is how they got the requests. No, that's not the way they got the requests. The way they got the requests was, well, this. So this is a typical Excel sheet with all the typical sins that Excel sheets have. So nothing's really ordered. It appears as if this is ordered, so you have items, you have an input to show the number, so the quantity, so 120, I know, boxes of tea. This is narrow and this is wide because somebody made, no, these are the lookup tables in the top, and you have to select what you need, like this, and 20 pieces of this, and 10 pieces of that, and this and that and that. So you can imagine, right? So this is your typical Excel sheet done by someone who wanted this to look nice, but this is like your typical Excel, right? So well, it sort of works, but they wanted to print out of this. So I guess they wanted to just take this and send it to printer and print it on a piece of paper, because there's very bad data connection in that humanitarian center. It has like 1 meter thick walls because it's an old fortress. And yeah, they don't have they don't have 3G, 4G in there. So they were printing these out on pieces of paper and going around the warehouse and picking up and collecting collecting whatever was needed. Yeah, this is how it looked like. So they approached me to make a better solution for this, whether I could make a better solution for this. Everyone does Google Forms, Google Forms. With Google Forms, you cannot really make a good interface or make something like a cart, like a Viva Pizza, right? So I basically created a Viva Pizza for that humanitarian center. And well, it has search, so Voda, water, like searching for water or whatnot. Or you can search for like filter for categories, or you have a version that's optimized for mobile, and it has the views and more compact tables. So the mobile version is a little bit more optimized. It's a separate link. It's a bit more optimized. Okay, for some reason I cannot go back to the not mobile version. Ah, yeah, it just opened it in a separate tab. So yeah, and basically you either, well, select, you need 5 pieces of that, 3 pieces of that, or you fill out just directly in the cell. So these are not editable cells, these are editable cells. You can add a note like the XXL size of, in this case, canned fish. And you fill it out like that. And this database of things is actually not a crossdoc, and there is a reason for that. If something's not on the list, but for instance a a hostel or whoever, well, there are several social housings around the city. If for instance certain housing needs something that's not on the list, they can add it here. So select the category, enter the name, like, I don't know, pallets, whatever, in pieces, and 120 pieces, and you add them, and it adds this to the database directly. So something you cannot do with sync tables, but you can do with regular local tables. So this, in the end, you go to the checkout. There's your confirmation list, your cart, basically. And here's the pre-selection of those housings. So the the social housing number 1, number 2, we have people who live in schools. So in the gymnasiums of schools, they just have lots of mattresses and linens and everything. So they just sleep on the floor on the mattresses, right? In gymnasiums. I wanted to find you photos, but couldn't find them very quickly. And kindergartens and whatnot. And this basically, again, uses the URL parameters functionality and pre-fills the form. So if the data is known, the contact numbers of those housings, and maybe people responsible, and the address, and all that's left to fill out is when this needs to be collected, and the order itself is encoded again in a hidden field. But this time I'm not just encoding it as 3xR1, 2xR3. I didn't do that sort of thing like I did in Viva Pizza. my custom encoding. What I did, Coda now has the way to create JSON, the object formula. It's hidden, I think, but it works. And parse JSON to then unmarshal that basically back again. So I create a JSON, I send it as JSON, I then unpack it as JSON, and I can find you. Actually, I can show you the backend doc. The backend doc I can show you because it's private anyway. You don't have access to it by link. Because that one, the front end is shared with whoever needs to fill it out, and the backend is only shared with the admins. So, and yeah, this thing actually uses the approach with incoming orders. They come into a, so this is the encoded JSON, so the items that need to go on the order. And I made sure that even if you check everything on the list, it still fits into the cell. So this thing encoded, for instance, it's if you decode, there is a few things. There is the to base 64 and back from base 64. The problem with Coda is that the to base 64 and Coda's base 64 function does not encode it in a URL safe way. So it uses the characters for certain bytes that do not safely, you cannot append them to the hidden field in a form. It gets broken. So you have, when you create that form, you have to replace certain characters. I think it's a backslash and a dash that you have replaced with, there's a few alternatives that you can use safely in base 64. Yeah, so items are still encoded by, the items are encoded either but by their ID and quantity, ID and quantity, ID and quantity, and the items that are not on the list are encoded by their name. So the name is appended, so bread or dried bread, and commons not spicy, right? So something that's not spicy they were requesting. An item 22. So this, yeah, this is JSON encoded as base 64 with certain characters changed because they were the out of the box version of encoded base 64 in Coda is unsafe for URLs. And yes, and then they get to yeah, they get it like this. So these all are, I see that they are actually using it. They are using it daily. They had 2 requests today, and they were oh no, they just, I think, didn't bother checking off that everything is ready. But in the beginning, so what they needed, they go and they print it, and let's maybe find some request that's bigger. They go and print it, and this actually gets very nice on the printer. So they print it like this, they go with the piece of paper, check it off, or they make comments that, okay, not 5 kilograms of apples, they were able to only collect 2 or 3 kilograms of apples. And then, where was that? And then they tick it off. So, okay, this they didn't manage to collect at all. This, out of 10, they only managed to collect 5. And then they clicked here to mark everything else as collected. So, or mark everything else as not collected. So you only have to click for those that stand out of the rest, and then mark everything else as either all collected or all not collected. So what we thought of doing maybe, but they never, I think it's fine for them, it does the job, so we never got around to improving this. But if we wanted, we could do any sorts of stats on this. like what goods are most needed, what goods are not so needed. We could form the lists of, okay, we need more of this, please give us more of that, we are running out of these, so on. But they never contacted me about any improvements. I think they're good enough with this, and actually now that life is trying to get back to normal, as normal is the word, um, this gets less and less needed. So nobody really needs that anymore that much, and everyone's okay without that. So that's, but this is an interesting solution, and maybe I'll package it one day for any further humanitarian relief things. Maybe I'll make a template out of it. The good thing about this template is it's easily copied and you don't have to do much setup on it. There's no crossdock. Basically, you just replace a few pieces of text here and there to use the form from a different URL. I wanted to make also a feedback loop, so that when you add new items to the table, it then gets synced, pushed back in the front-end doc. So you add these items so that next time people are filling out the doc, they can see the missing items on the list as well. And you can control what gets pushed and what does not. So this was my next idea. But again, they never needed it, and I got to other things. So that's this is Viva Pizza. If there were no Viva Pizza, no capstone, no motivation for me to find this trick, there wouldn't be this refugee relief dog. And this is, if anyone wondered what was the practical use of that Viva Pizza thing, well, here's the practical use. You build whatever interface in Coda, you make it a familiar interface because it's Coda, and you get the results, and everything is safe because you are not letting anyone use your backend doc directly. Back to the Instagram. So that was the doc I made, and I know I said the stream was I wanted to do the stream until 9 p.m. I think I'll get out of our time frame, and you are always, as always, you are free to just hop off whenever you wish and watch it later. Watch it at 2x speed, 1.5x speed, whatever. If you're Joe, you can watch it on 5x speed, or yeah, if you're crazy enough. I also need to take another 1 minute break, probably, because I feel like I need to take a sip of water, maybe go to the loo downstairs. So I'll be back in like 2 minutes or something. And while I'm gone, let me know if there's anything in particular you want me to talk about, or if there's anything you want me to focus on, talk about, whatnot. So I want to talk a little bit more about our Instagram, and I want to also talk a little bit more about the Telegram chatbot, and I think I'll need another half an hour or something for that, unless I'm again covering all the things. I sort of missed this. For the last month, it passed so quickly. I haven't gone online for a single time. I mean live on the stream. So now I think by seeing me sitting in my chair in a corner, no drapes this time. Yeah, it's our house, new house, and I really love our new house. It's very peaceful in here, even though it's a headquarter slash barracks these days. It's kind of comfy. I don't know. I got used to it very quickly. I like it very much. So yeah, be back in 2 minutes or something. Yeah, so I had a feeling that I would be on stream and the air raid siren would go off, and it would be an interesting experience for you as well to hear the air raid sirens here. They are not very loud. Well, they are pretty loud outside, outdoors. They changed the sirens recently because the ones that were there in the first days of the war, they were good for nothing. Everyone installed an app that goes off, the siren goes off on each phone, even if you have it on mute and on silent. It just the siren roars on everyone's phone, and then they tell when it's when the siren has been dismissed. So yeah, it would be an interesting experience, but yeah, luckily we don't have that many of the sirens in here. I saw there used to be a website. I think maybe I even have it open somewhere. So yeah, it's air raid alert. Um, the air raid alert, if for some reason doesn't load in here, is currently in these regions, which sometimes, well, usually when you have a air raid alert in our region, it's all or half of the country, and it's like it's a what's the word there? Premature? No, it's like precautionary one, because nobody knows where the missile is heading, or if it's a plane, um, if it's an aircraft, then again, nobody knows where it's heading. So, what city it's going to shell? So the siren on half of the country usually, or this the trajectory. So this basically means that somebody launched a missile like here, maybe from here, from going in this direction, very likely on Chernihiv. It's going in this direction, but it already flew past these regions. But then again, nobody can predict where it will go from here. So this is how you can read this map. And well, if you have this is the statistics of how long there has been an air raid alert in different regions. And well, here's Transcarpathia, or Zakarpattia, my region, our region. It's so far the most unaffected. Well, it's for today. We had one yesterday. We had one in the night, and it lasted 17 minutes. But since the beginning, I think we are, yeah, in total we had 25. So one day, 25 hours, 26 hours nearly in total. 17 air raid sirens, which is again compared to Kyiv, the total duration is 10 days, 10 full days and 3 hours. And some of the other regions, it's, yeah, we are, I can say lucky, I don't know if it's the word here, but we don't have that many alerts. That probably would be a better way to explain this. Yeah, I wanted to show you some of the photos that I can show you. And let me see. Let me see if I can. Oh, this is my photo, right? So this everything is in order. Or maybe it's not my photo. Maybe it is. Wait. Okay. Something's not working. Let me refresh my tab. As I said earlier, the did I have a chance to talk to you about my wedding at all? I guess I did. We still don't have the photos because our photographer is also volunteering. Let me find any photo of how our home looks at times. Don't mind the picture, the print on the wall, because but if you look for moderators as well, if you look through most of the photos, if I have a big collection of photos from our house, yeah, some photos of these I cannot show because they sort of reveal how we are doing things, what we are doing, where we are sending, who are our partners, and so on. We cannot really disclose faces that much yet, and the means of transportation, and the kinds of goods we have. So I hope you understand that. Better safe than sorry, right? Yeah, super atrocious internet. Lots of problems with the internet this time. Can you hear me? Okay, nothing is just loading. Nothing is just loading, and and I don't know why that is. Maybe because there is other person in the downstairs that's using our internet, or someone else is just using the internet. Maybe the ones that we are borrowing the bandwidth from, maybe they are using the internet, maybe they're downloading some movie or whatever, or just watching some movie or watching some YouTube, and that's why we don't have the bandwidth. Can you hear me? Can you see me? Because my indicator of stream quality just goes crazy. No, anyway, so there's lots of boxes, and the story goes like this. So we wanted to make an Instagram, right? We wanted to make an Instagram, and the folks told me we needed a logo because so far um, we've been rocking the same Russian warship photo for our chats because, well, we didn't know any better at the moment. I think, yeah, finally they closed the 12 people. They closed something else after that. And when we closed the announcement, we changed the header so that people know that the announcement has been closed. So yes, yeah, we were rocking pretty much the same avatar, the same photo. So we wanted a logo, and I have a friend, a designer friend, and I really like his creative, out of the box, get it box thinking. And I told him that, okay, can you come up with something for us, Uzhhorod volunteers? We kind of need some logo for Instagram, for the chat, for whatever. And he came up with the concept. He told me that the logo of Uzhhorod volunteers needs to be has to be, okay, where is it? Well, has to be a box um, that's held together by two pieces of scotch in the form of the letter U, the first letter, Uzhhorod. Yeah, so it's like a box that's been scotch is, we call it scotch, and everyone in the world calls it duct tape. So yeah, a taped box, a duct taped box, and this should be our logo. And some people liked it, and some people didn't get it. And they were like, well, we are not just doing the boxes. We have the workforce. We are managing people who do, I know, wash the dishes and bring stuff and carry stuff and so on. It's not always boxes, even though pretty much our life has been boxes for the last month and something. So it's boxes on the warehouse, boxes at our house, boxes everywhere. So Uzhhorod volunteers should be about boxes. But not everyone liked the idea, and everyone like told that, okay, but we need to search for something else. Everyone, pretty much, if you search for volunteer chats, all of them pretty much use the blue and yellow, so the colors of the flag, the Ukrainian flag, blue and yellow, blue and yellow, blue and yellow, and well, yeah, any volunteer, or there's hands and hearts, right? If you search for volunteers, pretty much not much creativity in there. So if you search, Instagram, you do the volunteer search, you find mostly people holding hands, hearts, hands. If you search for Ukrainian volunteers, that's gonna be blue and yellow, either the outline of the city or the flag or the coat of arms or a heart, and yeah. But blue and yellow are kind of brand colors right now. It's super recognizable. Everyone's rocking them. There's concerts and demonstrations all over the world using blue and yellow. So someone told internally that it would be almost a crime not to use the blue and yellow trend. And we were looking for ideas and trying to find some non boring, non-typical, non-cliche logo for a volunteering group that's not like hands or hearts. And someone suggested to make, I don't know, because someone said that this was a great logo. No, I wouldn't say that. So there were different ideas, and there were also more ideas, but yeah, the ones that use the letter V or letter Z are pretty much just people didn't know that the letter V was just as much a swastika as the letter Z, and someone suggested to make it like the naval or navy knot, right? So the two pieces of band, the blue one, the yellow one, that are interlocked and look like hands that hold each other, like hands helping each other, but not literally the hands, just the interlocked knots. And if that's we have an SMM group somewhere, I think it's a bad idea to show the photos from the SMM group, but I think these are safe ones, but I'll hide them just in case. These are the SMM ones. Now I need to find something, I cannot find it. Yeah, and we even searched because we were trying to figure out whether we needed to draw that knot or we could just use it off stocks, take a stock picture or something. But well, there was this bracelet on Etsy, and we are now thinking of producing these bracelets and selling them to raise the funds for our charity. Like these don't cost this much, but they look like that interlocking thing, right? The blue and yellow one. And yeah, so we found this as a possible thing, but the logos on the stock market were pretty atrocious, so I sat down and I actually rendered it. So first I rendered it as well, this is just the mechanical knot, which is ugly because it's very geometric. Then I tweaked the. So I'm not really a designer, so it's just something that I can do, forge documents and make logos when needed. So I made it like in this flat like style with a little black outline to stick it close, to keep it close to that hand drawn picture, and fixed the geometry of the knot. Then I showed it to my designer friend, and he told me that I'll try to make it a white outline so that it looks like the logo is combined out of pieces, so that these pieces are like separate pieces. And indeed, it looks much cleaner this way, more like a modern logo without all the unnecessary shadows and all that. So it looks cleaner, it looks better in smaller form and bigger form, and yeah, this kinda established our identics. It's not like super, it's not Red Dot Award worthy, but it is modern enough and clean enough and recognizable enough, and we can then make merch out of that, right? So those navel knots, the bracelets, and other things. So yeah, this is our identics now. And it works well in the avatar. And in the end, so there shall be more posts. I think I sort of did it how it's gonna look like. In the end, there's gonna be those hands, but it's just a regular post. It's not a logo, just the regular hands. I'll have some photos and somebody on the SMM chat. Let me once again just hide this away and find what we've discussed in there. Yeah, so basically it's gonna look something like this, but on a white, well, in a little bit different, in a tweaked way. So this is just a mock-up how the Instagram is gonna look like. Yeah, this is the logo. Yes, now we have the Instagram. You can follow it, Uzh volunteers, if you wish that much, and it still links to our uzhhorod.org website, and I'm gonna replace it maybe today, maybe tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm busy with a client of mine, my last client from Uzhhorod, whom I failed to serve before the war started. I was just about to finish my assignment for him and not take any more client work ever again. So I've got a few more requests this month, and I redirected everyone to Artem. I don't have the capacity, I don't want to do client work anymore. There's Artem, there's also Simple Docs, Scott, other consultants, there's everyone else in the world but me. I can do much more for this world, I think. And I'll start with making the courses, teaching everyone first how to use Coda, teaching my own country, my own people, how to use computers more efficiently and make more use out of it. So this is my destiny. All my life I liked to teach people, inspire students. When I was a professor, I still do that. Once a year I go to my alma mater, my university, and I deliver a lecture on how to find yourself in this world, how to better sell yourself in a way, how to better apply yourself. Yeah. So this is something I just feel like doing, and not just I cannot do any more client work, and I cannot really do any more conveyor belt sort of work. If I make docs, I like to make art, So it's something that I make once and I showcase the features. I really liked Scott's recent doc. Actually, it's not even Scott's, it's someone else from Simpler Docs. I invite you to actually check it out. It's, well, despite the fact that they are, well, they are not my well, first, they are not my enemy. Second, they are not my rivals, really. But because, yeah, I'm not doing consulting anymore. I thought I would build my own consulting agency, but I don't want that. I would just rather let other people make money, maybe profit from selling courses to them or teaching them. That's more of my way of doing things. So this doc, well, this is super cool. This thing, the idea to make a button that expands a card by making something not blank. So a card does not show blank values, blank columns. And so when it's blank, it's hidden. The card looks like this, and when you click on a button, it toggles the state of this column and it expands the card. Super cool. And the rest of the tricks are pretty known, but this thing is super cool. It's something new that I didn't think of myself. Yeah, generally the fact that the doc is very interactive is very interestingly built. Yeah. So last thing, the chatbot. I think at some point I'll make this into a at some point I'll make this into a separate video on how to actually best find the best suitable interface for something. So whether it should be a direct table, a way to fill out the table, whether it should be a form, whether it should be something like a custom interface like I built for the Humanitarian Center, or it should be a totally custom solution like Viva Pizza, right? Or it could be a chatbot. So what each of these ways to get the data into the system, maybe it's even gonna be one of the lectures on my course. I don't know, maybe it's gonna be one of the lectures on my advanced course. So for which uses, which of the ways of getting data into the system is the best, right? And chatbots, well, they are not good for everything, but it's good. But oh, gosh, I'm getting tired already, so it's harder for me to think clearly and talk straightly. And yeah, the best use of chatbots is when when it's already familiar that people are using the messenger for something. So in our case, all the people that we need are already here. So all the potential users of the chatbot are already in this chat in Telegram. So trying to teach them, to get them into Coda or into some forms, it's gonna just distract them. They will go back to the chat if we keep it open. They go back to the chat, or they will start calling our girls, because we still give all the contact info. Like, not everyone knows how to use chatbots, right? So if they are in a hurry or there's something they just cannot figure out, they always have a regular phone line to call someone, to get a human to help them, a human to get their request. So so we don't want a situation where we build an intake form and it's good for nothing, because nobody's using that. Nobody got time to fill out the form. The long form kinda distracts them, discourages them from ever starting to fill it out. So these are the things that are best avoided by a conversational chatbot, because in a conversational chatbot you can remember the tiny chatbot that I made. You can reveal things piece by piece, and unlike paper form or tally form or whatever, um, it's more, you don't perceive this as a separate website that you fill out, and when you see that the form reveals itself part by part, you think, oh no, this is gonna take so long. Everyone has those. Well, in Ukraine, maybe not worldwide, but in Ukraine, everyone has those associations of when people are asking you to answer some questions. There's some like poll on the streets and they're trying to get your opinion on something. Very often they start giving you questions, and turns out it's not like 2 or 3 questions, but it's a big ass form out of that has 80 questions in them. I think at some point I was filling out I was answering question by question. There was some public opinion poll in the street, and in the end I was this close to finishing the form, and my bus came. And I had to go because another bus would come in 40 minutes, and I wasn't going to wait for another bus in 40 minutes for another 40 minutes. So all the 15 minutes I spent on filling out that form was for nothing. So this is that bad association that forms have in here. And answering some questions in a bot, and again, a bot has to be helpful and mindful. I'm not building a bot to, again, connect people with volunteers. It's not gonna do all the magic magically. It's just an intake form that's asking some questions and then saving some things to the database in the end and notifying someone else. So the bot is, let's clear the bot and start it over. And this is how it looks like. Oh, hey, this bot will, so this is the introduction. Hey, this bot will help you fill out the form, blah, 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 and you have to accept something first. Accept with data collection. Nobody's doing that, but I'm doing that just in case. You can ask for the privacy policy. And then just one rule, that we respect our volunteers, and we ask that you respect them as well. So give them water, feed them if the work is long, blah, blah, blah. So do the if they complain that you are a very disorganized person and you couldn't manage a group of volunteers that well, yeah. So someone's already testing the bot, I think, but it does not yet work. So yeah, you have to accept that. If you don't accept that, they're giving you the name, a person of the, currently it's me, a person of the currently active admin, and you manage that through a database. So not this, let me bring up. Make is the rebranded Integromat. So, you know, I like Integromat, I like that it's visual, I like that it's very functional. You can do a lot with Integromat. Maybe I'll apply for a partner program for Integromat. Well, I really like Integromat. And for Ukrainians, they recently made it basically free. I said that I was doing some volunteering things, so for everything that's not for profit, they gave us generous quotas, 3 million operations in a month, 1.5 terabytes of data. So their biggest plan, basically. I paid for it once, and then they sponsored it for me, which is great, which is good. So yeah, the admins currently, there's just me, and is on duty. The first person who's on duty is gonna be displayed as a admin on duty. So people, well, back to the agreement, agree. This is the only way to go forward in it. If and and then this is checked whether the consent has been given to this. So if at any point I go to the database and I uncheck the consent checkbox on myself, the bot gets you back to the consent screen. So this is also like properly taken care of. What's your name? Well, Paul, yeah? Phone number. And if it misses the validation, it will also tell you that it missed validation. It maybe has some extra symbols in it, so you can do it with spaces, without spaces. So by default, it's gonna accept all the valid formats, but if it looks like it's invalid, it's gonna, tell you that it's invalid. And what you should do, so there's buttons. Talk to an admin, back to the menu. Change your data and create a request. And in create a request, you have like working hands, strong hands, collect some things, find some things, and depending on what you choose, it shows a different checklist. So basically, there's also transportation, like car sharing around Ukraine, lodging, and collecting the funds, and these are the canned responses. So transporting around Ukraine, it just gives you the same two groups that we have a canned response that we send to these people. So we don't do that, but here are the groups that you can check out. Go back to the menu. So this will like unload us from replying again and again. Lodging. There's the canned list of groups, and also there's this message with the recently known contacts around the whole region. And an admin bot, so there is another bot. There is this, like the user-facing bot, and there is the admin bot. And the admin bot has a command editing homes. So you can take this and edit homes and append the text to. So it's less sophisticated. It does not have a dialogue. It's more technical. It's for me basically, and for handling some of the buttons as well. But this allows to update this piece of data. So I can send a different piece of data to the admin bot, and next time someone asks about lodging, it will show that updated list of lodging. So this is that. And if you, for instance, select, well, just you need also working hands, the regular thing, dishwashers. It lets you write a message, and it's a free-form message. So I'm not trying to constrain people into filling out the form. Okay, 20 people. So how many people do you need? 20. What kind of people do you need? I thought of doing that in the beginning. But in the end, I thought, well, people are already sending free-form messages. Our moderators are already calling people if they need to clarify some information. So no need to constrain people. So that's a big mistake that IT people who build databases, the kind of people I talked about in the beginning, that's the mistake they make. They try to constrain people into specific fields of a specific form, into question, while actually, well, it may work for some things. When you, like with that humanitarian aid thing, you need to specifically know that you need a number, like 20 kilograms of rice and like 5 boxes of tea and whatnot. So you have to, there, it's okay to constrain people into just entering the numbers, right? Here, all kinds of requests are different. You cannot constrain them into categories even. The category is just to make auto responses to, because we have so many requests about lodging and so many requests about transport. We just want to stop wasting effort on them. So the category is basically to catch out those people, serve them with canned responses, and that's it. That's the only basically reason why we have categories. We have other requests, for miscellaneous category as well. And the other thing that's it good for, it just shows a different checklist. So if you cancel the request and you do and ask for a specialist, for instance, it's just gonna give you a separate checklist. Or if you go and cancel the request and you create a request for some things, it's gonna give you again a different sort of checklist. But that's it. In all three cases, it asks you to write your request in a free-form way. So it does not constrain you into answering these three questions or these these four questions or these points or whatever. It just gives you a helpful hand. So don't forget to write about this and this and this and this. Just don't forget. This is human design. And there is a button. If anything's unclear, you just something's not clear, you can call an admin. So it will give you the. Actually, it should probably not reset. It should probably not reset the state. But I just added these inline buttons post haste, so it basically uses the same framework as the regular buttons. I'll probably redo that at some point. So yeah, cancel the request or call an admin. The good thing about these buttons is that it does not obstruct the keyboard on mobile, so you can like then any details. So it gives you the second chance to check if you haven't forgotten anything important. Maybe you need to bring your passport, it's a closed area, or you need to call someone or anything else. And if everything's okay, you can either write that, or if everything's okay, there's a handy button, no, everything's okay. The contact person. So for most cases, the person who registered for the chatbot is the contact person. So no need to ask that information every time. So I'm the contact person. Or you can also type in the other data. So you're filling out this request for someone else, you type in the different data, and yeah, and the request is sent. And it's already in our incoming requests. The admin bot sent it as a new request. And I haven't finished doing that yet, but the plan is an admin who takes this request into work. They click on I take this request, it gets removed from this list, and I already see that someone filled this out. One of our people filled this list, but they did it in a technical way. So they just ticked off all the checklists. So 6 people wash the dishes tomorrow, so on and so forth. So yeah. So you click on there, and the admin bot sends this into your direct messages, and there you have options to edit the message, publish this to the channel, delete it, and then when an action is taken, a person who submitted the request also receives a reply saying that, okay, your message was submitted or your message was dismissed. This is the reason of cancellation and so on, and that's the idea. And the way it's built, so at first I was doing it by the book, right? Like everyone does chatbots and Integromat by the book. So you have a trigger that watch updates, do some handling, and then you have all these paths basically hard-coded, copied. So when you enter the type, do this, delete the message, edit the message, store something to the database, and when you entered another piece of data, do pretty much that, and then you change the connection when you replace the bot, and you have to go over each bubble and replace everything. So this is copy paste. One of the biggest principles of programming in general is don't repeat yourself. Don't if you see that you are copying some pieces of logic, some code, like formula code or in our case, bubbles, modules for Integromat, means you're doing something wrong. This does not have to be like that. It has to be automated in some other way. So what, and that was the reason was because, yeah, I was composing different messages here, so inserting different pieces of data. So the message was here, and the message was here. I haven't yet had a chance to update that, so I know that some people build chatbots like this, and you can even find pictures on Google Images of people boasting, showing off scenarios like this. So there's a lot of conditional logic, and all the messages are pretty much hard-coded. So yeah, a anonymous chat in Telegram, yeah, using a bot in Integromat, and they are proud of this. Yeah, this looks beautiful. This looks like art, but this does not look practical at all. Practical is to make a model and make a logic that supports that model, and try to find a model of how things work. And that's what I did with that. So that's what I did with the Uzhhorod volunteers bot. So all that exchange that you see here is actually, the blueprint looks like this. And you can see that the message bubbles are only here, what gives, and here. Well, because this is not the bot. This is just the framework behind the bot, and the bot itself, the bot itself is encoded in the chatbot exchanges. So here's the whole table with the messages, with the buttons. So here's the menu buttons. I don't know if you can see that. Here's the buttons. Here's the regular expressions for processing replies. So basically, it's a state machine. Whenever a bot is started, it has a new user state. When there is the continuation state, then it automatically jumps you to the next state. It may show you a message and then automatically jumps you to the next state. The bot is programmed in a way that it handles up to 3, so it handles 3 jumps. It can show you 3, it can get you through 3 states in one go, on one trigger, on one message. It can like trigger that. So the first is, of course, the reset, the one that deletes a record. Then if it's a new user, it creates a record. If it's a command, it has to bypass all the processing and force you into the state. That's because in Telegram, these are basically canned replies, right? So the buttons that are shown here are canned replies, something that you can type out yourself. But there's also the commands menu, and these are like, forget everything and force me to this state, force me to do something at this command. Of course, well, if it's not a stateful bot, I mean, each command, so I need to maybe make myself clear what is stateful, what is stateless. So stateless is each time you interact with bot, it's like request, response, and they are totally idempotent. It's one request and you get a response. I don't know, search for a GIF, get a GIF back. Yeah, search for request a bot to give you a random number, it gives you a number, and that's the end of exchange. So every time you start a new exchange, it's like does nothing from your past messages affects what your next reply will be, right? So every request reply is an interaction in itself. You don't have to reset any state, so there is no state. There is no memory of what you've been through before that request. That's stateless. And stateful is when you have to have actually that memory. So each request response builds up upon what's been selected previously. So access to the menu is built upon that consent and the fact that you entered your name and phone number, and yes, and the fact that you reply here is built upon the fact that you selected a menu item, and the fact that you add your contact info is then built upon the fact that you started making a new request, and you cancel request to get back to the menu, and again the state has changed. So this is stateful. You at each time you are in some state, and at some state, and that state you are shown a message, you are shown some buttons, you are expected to then transition into some other state. So you may either go back to the start, reset everything, so a state is forced by the / command, or you click a button. When a button to create a request only works in a menu, it should not work in any other state, right? So that's why there's options, and options are basically, yeah, a regular expression, which often is quite literal, and sometimes it's not. And if the regular expression is met, you are transitioned into a next state. If a continuation state is present, then it does not wait for an option from you, it automatically brings you to the next state. So this is done to first show you this message and then show you quick reg message, this message. So that's why when you start a new chat, you get one message, and right after that you get the next message, and only then it waits for a reply from you. Yeah, here are your, in your quick reg, you agree, you disagree, and on the other line you have the privacy policy and the regular expressions that get you to either enter name or to the privacy policy state, or to the retest consent state, where admin credentials are given, and well, you are brought back basically. So this is how it's built, and yeah, you have a model, and then every time you want to add a new state or a new message, you don't have to go and edit the blueprint. The blueprint is there. You just add the new paths of dialogue in here, and dialogues can branch and they can merge back, right, by showing the state. So this is the state machine for you, and you can actually take a lot from this already, of well, how it's built. So this is the state machine for the bot, and if I ever want to build a bot for, I don't know, Viber or WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger or whatever Make supports, I just copy the blueprint and I replace not all of those hundreds of bubbles, but I replace 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, well, and a few more bubbles in my bot. And it now will work for and use the same database of exchanges basically. So how it works in a closer look. So the way router works, it sends data to all paths. So then, depending on the filters, it either goes through or does not go through. So if you have a router like this, it does not mean that only one of the paths will be chosen. It means that data will first try to go here, then try to go here, then try to go here, then here, then here. So it will iterate over all the paths. And only if the filter lets this through, it will go and hit this particular path. But it will test them all in order. And the order is actually not visual, because you can drag this around as much as you want. The order is the order in which you connected these things. So whenever you want to add something in between, you have to unlink everything and then link it back in the order you wish them to. So this is the state machine. Let me quickly walk you through this. So if it's a command, then it finds it tries. I'm still rocking, and it's my mistake because there are some bugs with Make with Integromat, but so far it's reusing the same table. So when a command is found, it just takes you to the state written in the continuation. So it uses the same database with basically all the fields empty. I should put it on a separate database, I think, on a separate table. Yeah, so it redirects you to the state. There's the repeater that ensures that there's there's 3 loops at most of processing the whole thing. So what it does, it finds the user, it finds the state of that user, so information of the state, which is an exchange related to the state. If there's no consent, it basically forces you back to the state of well, go and register, go give consent. If the message has these options on regular expressions, it checks them one by one and saves the first match to the variable, and then if the variable is present, it uses that variable as the current state, and if not, it shows, and if there was no match, so anything from here should match. In the end, you have to supply the regular expression that matches everything, because, well, it's the path that should hit if none of the previous paths matched on the message. And if nothing matched, it shows you the validation message. So nothing matched for some reason, and yeah, sets the flag that validation failed. And it's important then for the loop to know what to do next. If the validation hasn't failed, so maybe there was no validation at all, and only for the first iteration of the loop, it processes the message manually. So this is blank, this footer is blank, and this is the custom logic. So here I added the logic for, so okay, if the state is this, we are looking for consent, then update the user with consent flag. If we're looking for a name, then store the name. If we're looking for the phone, store the phone. Usually what people do when they build make bots or Integromat bots, they build paths like I showed you previously for different dialog branches, and they just add these things as nodes to one particular branch. So there would be one branch for, okay, if we are asking for consent, then show the message and then save the data, and if we are looking for that, then save the data and do that and do that. It's going to be easier on the number of commands that are taken, so it's going to be more efficient in terms of cost, right? Of number of operations, because Integromat make it charges you on the number of operations. So there is a lot of like overhead in this. Save variable, read variable. If I go back to the bot of admin bot, I'm building it in a more efficient way. I'm not reusing the same framework. I'm just, yeah, if it's this command, then save and show the message. If it's this command, then save and show the message, and so on. So this is a more efficient, cost-efficient solution. But then you have that problem of duplication, of repeating yourself too much, especially if you're building a big dialogue and you cannot extend it without taking it offline and copying well, you don't have to take it offline, you can edit the scenario and the bot will still work. You then hit save, unlike Zapier, right? In Zapier, when you start editing something, it turns off your scenario. So while you're editing things, your scenario is offline. In Integromat, it's always online, and only when you click save a new version is created, and then Integromat swaps the so it's never offline, it's never turned off. Just while you're editing, it still uses the old version. But you have to duplicate a lot, and here you have totally separate things that keep you sane. You don't go crazy trying to connect all the pieces. So this is responsible for finding the next state based on the regular expression, based on what's entered. This is given that validation is not failed and we are not in continuation, so it's the first pass of the loop. We process the message, so we store it. If it's that, we store it. If it's that, we store it. Yeah, we made it a separate cluster of nodes in our blueprint that's not mixed with anything else. And finally, see whether we need to update the state of the user in the database, and show the message based on that state we are now in. And there's just a few ways to show a message. There can be a message without buttons, there can be a message with buttons, there can be a message with something. I think there's a placeholder and a request. Yeah, there is a input placeholder, but there is no buttons, but it forces the keyboard out or something. And finally, I just added this post haste. It creates, normally it should be a different thing than just the buttons here. It creates a descriptor for these buttons here. The difference between these buttons in the message and these buttons in here is that these buttons, when you click them, it's basically just pre-fills the message and sends it. So it's just the same thing if you take this text and paste in here. And these buttons, they actually work in a different way. They don't send the message, they don't result in a message, they send a callback. So they have a link to they have a link, they keep the link to the message they are attached to, and they can send some payload like ID 1 or 2, or they don't send the text, but you can have a short string like call, cancel. So they send a command back in a way, not the slash command, because the slash command is also just a message like these. They send a callback and it's received in a different way. It's received by the bot in a different way. So the bot processes the callbacks just like it processes buttons. This one, I will probably improve that before I sell this thing. Because I'm going to sell this thing because, well, why not? $50, $100 or something for this package. Maybe I make it a Patreon special for some of the months I'm owing you. And are you still following, by the way, because the chat is silent, and I'm going to wrap it up shortly. So yeah, it makes this sort of message. And here's another cluster of custom messages that cannot be canned in here. But for instance, if the state is not programmed, I'm showing that this state is not programmed, and something else, the name of the state, I'm showing the name of the state, I think. If show admin, show my own data, like what the user wants to see, what's their data, on the personal data saved, it shows, in addition to the canned message, it shows a message that confirms your name and phone number. And if you need to show admin info on separate states, so it looks for the admin, for the active admin, and it additionally shows the name of the administrator and the link to contact an administrator. So this cluster is for custom processing of incoming messages, and this cluster is for showing custom messages in addition to the canned messages. This is the blueprint, and it's okay that you never built one, but it's an interesting tool to know to do. I never built a chatbot before the war started either. So I always wanted to learn how to do one, and I always wanted to learn how to do one efficiently, and even a conversational chatbot like the one I did, the stateful conversational chatbot that asks you questions and you give it answers, and it reacts differently depending on an answer. So and it's an interesting experience building this with Make. Make is not really suited for building chatbots, so I was researching other platforms that were specifically built for building chatbots, specifically designed for building chatbots, and honestly, I didn't really like any of them. So they were all very constrained. They weren't able to do what I wanted them to do. So that's why I took it to Make, and yeah, it's an interesting experience. I can package it and sell it, and share it. I'll probably share this stream with the Make guys, this portion where I'm discussing this bot. Maybe I'll share it with Ukrainian no-code guys. I hope they can make sense out of it. And my wife is calling me, and It's been an hour over the time limit I set for myself. I'm probably gonna wrap it up now. Yeah, I'm probably gonna wrap it up now. Please, just a sec, I need to take this. Um, Giving them my car maybe was not the brightest idea because they didn't know how to fold the side mirrors and they are trying to squeeze somewhere and just cannot squeeze. Gosh, good I have insurance. Uh, I hope I don't have to exercise it tonight. My car insurance. I don't even know if it works in the martial law time. Well, it does. It does not work if a missile hits your car, but it should work against regular um, regular car accidents. Okay, that's it for me for now. Oh, just another nice thing from this bot. Um, Save the changes. Not sure what kind of changes there were. I didn't think I changed anything. The cool thing about make is that it shows you how data is flowing. So see, I'm interacting with the bot and it already shows you which paths are engaged. So you can go and see, and after each state change you can, okay, this went through the filter and this path was hit, and this operation, okay, this was an error, but that's a good thing, that's expected that this was an error, because I'm reusing the field for a different thing. And it updated the state here, so request cancel, and it looped for 2 times and it sent here a message. It sent here a message that the thing was cancelled, and then it sent here a message that yeah, it showed the menu. Select the action, and there's the button. So yeah, cancelled, select the button. So yeah, you can see how things fire up when you do things with your bot. So that's one way to just gaze over how it's happening and burn your quota for operations and data, which is, luckily for me, is virtually unlimited. Yeah, that's it for me for tonight. Super happy to somewhat get back to my regular things, and hopefully next time I talk to you, we can celebrate the war is over and everything's back to normal and I'm back to my courses. And yeah, so hopefully next time you hear from me, it's the good news, not the bad news, or at least everything goes on not worse than it goes on now, but hopefully better. Again, if you know anyone whom you could direct to us about the fundraiser, a serious fundraiser for fueling up the cars and 8-wheelers and trucks and all, or you know someone who could send us loads of humanitarian aid, food, meds, equipment, and so on, please send them our way, send them to our Instagram, Volunteers, or send them to me directly, and I'll know where to then, whom to contact them with. Peace. Slava Ukraini.